Welcome back to another episode of the Successful Driver Podcast. And we are excited to continue talking to the fine people over at DEX Heavy Duty Parts. And we have Sarah Newton, who's in the marketing department there at DEX. Sarah, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been fun getting to know all the DEX people out there and kind of getting a bunch of different perspectives and flavors. And now we're a little marketing to marketing discussion here.
Heck yeah.
We're not going to get too, I don't think we're going to get too nerded out into the weeds of our gigs necessarily. Maybe a little bit, but I do
Be a little.
maybe a little, hey, we can talk about, let's talk SEO. How about that? But we do like to ask this question right off the bat, Sarah. We'd like to know, your industry background, how you got into the trucking industry, how long, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I started out in the trucking industry with the DEX brand in 2009. So when I started, my role was really more data focused. And then as our brand kind of grew and evolved, I took on a lot more sales activities and then ultimately marketing. We went through a rebrand. And so we had a lot of just fun, creative things in kind of growing that brand and having it become to what it is now. There were just a lot of activities that we've covered. And so my 11 years with the DEX brand has really been both sales and marketing. And then most recently, more on the marketing side. But I've had some really cool experience. I've worked a lot with our distributors, which are going to be Volvo and Mack dealers. I have met and visited a lot of fleets, both big and small, independent repair shops, body shops. I've had really a lot of great hands-on experience or ground zero experience, if you will. And then prior to that, in my younger life, I actually had a family member who was an owner operator. And so I kind of got to see things from a driver perspective. I've never driven a truck, but I have spent time as a passenger and I have traveled the United States from that point of view. So I feel like that kind of gives me an edge and a different perspective as well.
Oh, definitely. No, that's awesome. So you've been around some truck drivers. You've probably talked to a lot. We always ask this question. We love to get this angle. What makes a successful driver in your opinion?
In my opinion, what separates any driver from a successful one, and I don't think this is specific to drivers, but probably any industry or any job role, is really just taking pride in what you do. There's so many different factors, obviously, in being a driver, right? You have to have access to equipment. You have to be able to have your truck up and running. I mean, that's your source of income, right? And then obviously you have to have access to freight. I mean, those are kind of some givens, but really, I think in my opinion, the main thing is just taking pride in what you do day in and day out and really just having a passion for it.
Well, and I think that's the base level of just that level of pride, that level of ownership, I think it does apply. And it's a byproduct of, or a lot of good qualities and good traits are a byproduct of that, right?
Right.
The attention to detail, caring for your truck, those kind of things. If you get down at that root level, it's just that level of pride that you have and that level of ownership you have in what you're doing. That's a great point. So
Yeah.
your role now here, how are you helping truck drivers find success? What's your role in the truck driver story these days?
So what I'm doing now is really just, trying to execute our vision of what our brand wants to be. We are a parts provider, but we've always really looked at ourselves in terms of kind of being more of a solutions provider, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we want to make your business more successful. If you are an owner operator, if you are with the fleet, ultimately, if we're helping you to, grow your business, then we are being successful in turn, right? So making sure that places like dealerships, repair shops, body shops have access to a product that they can get to quickly to service your vehicle and get it back on the road. Understanding that every second your truck is parked, you're not having income, right? You're either losing money or you're not making income. So really just making sure that we are out there providing parts in the places that the drivers will need them, getting the parts to them in a timely manner and just helping them keep their equipment rolling, because that's really what brings in the money, right?
Right. No, for sure. For sure. And this has been such a crazy year for all of us in the trucking
Yes.
industry. It's been insanity in a
Yeah.
lot of different ways. And a lot of people, there's a lot of busy people out there within the trucking industry. And I want to know from you, from your perspective, from what you've seen, how the trucking industry is kind of, or what, I guess what you've kind of learned, I guess, about the trucking industry this last year.
Yeah, well, so much has changed, right? I mean, in my time alone, we've gone from a very mechanical based truck to now we're seeing a lot more electronic functions. We're seeing e-mobility coming along. We're seeing different types of energy, right? We saw the migration from the standard logbook over to the electronic logbook. So
Mhm.
happened in my time in the industry. And, who knows what the next 10 years will bring? Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, goodness, it's crazy. I think, one thing obviously is the industry anywhere, right? I mean, we are literally what keeps America running. So so many different things that I have learned, really coming from a place of I guess just not really having a full grasp on what the industry did for our country to now know
Yeah.
that it's everything. It's everywhere, it's everything. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And so that's just really cool. And tons of things have changed.
We have a phrase around here, and it's so crazy how you're not the first person that has, said that same sentiment. And it's unique to see how that perspective and that appreciation for this industry and the people that are making, literally keeping America moving.
Yeah.
It's spread throughout a variety of different, perspectives within this industry, but it all kind of comes back to that. It's this, we have a motto here: you brought it, you bought it, I brought it. That's kind of
Yeah.
our phrase. We give a sticker to every truck sale or truck customer that we have. You bought it, I brought it. And it's like
Yep.
without these guys, we wouldn't have the basic necessities. And it's insane that, it's insane how the level of, I guess, perception has changed throughout this industry, but throughout America too. I think,
Oh yeah.
truck drivers have been kind of brought to light, and that's been pretty cool. So, want to ask you this one too. This has been a big year for the trucking industry, big trucking industry, but for Dex too. What have you learned about your company here in the last year? As have you guys have had to, be affected by the same thing the entirety of the country has with the pandemic?
You know, we are the DEX brand is really adaptable. I think we've proven that, if no other time, and especially in the last. We have most of the folks within the DEX brand have been working from home. We haven't missed a beat. We're still, we have folks in the office. We're still shipping parts. We are still sending truckloads of parts to our distributors and making sure that we still have availability. It's funny. We talked a little bit about the pandemic, and in the beginning, there were a lot of shortages. I remember it got really scary, right? You go to the grocery store and the shelves would be bare and empty. And so even though we've been in this pandemic for a year now, there's so much has changed just in that year, right? Because now we're seeing grocery stores are now well stocked, thank goodness. So, not just as a brand, but as a country, we've really adapted and we've been able to, just kind of move things where we needed to move and have coverage where we needed. Um, but, I think one of the things also that we've seen is there are a lot more older trucks that are being utilized, right?
Yeah,
It's not just the newer trucks.
right.
All industry wide, there's production issues, there's parts issues, availability, that sort of thing. So I think, any truck that can be used, brought to life, used to move freight, I think that is a really big change that we've seen is people are utilizing older trucks and they're bringing them back into service, even if they had been previously retired. So I think that's really interesting to see as well.
For sure, and that response, I mean, it's the resourcefulness. We're trying to make this thing work, and it takes all of us in the trucking industry to make this possible. And
Yeah.
Sarah, I appreciate you being part of this, and I appreciate what you're doing to help keep America moving and being part of the truck driver story. And it's been great getting to talk to you here a little bit. I thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's another episode of the Successful Driver Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, watching, wherever you're consuming this. We'll catch you later.